The quantum sensor array hummed softly in the darkness of Pluto Station Alpha, its crystalline matrices pulsing with an ethereal blue light. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the readouts, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic display that stretched across the observation deck. After 15 years of watching the depths of space, she had never seen anything like this. "Director Walsh," she called out, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "I think you need to see this." The station's director, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair, moved silently across the deck. In her 30 years of service, Catherine Walsh had overseen humanity's most distant outpost with unwavering dedication. "What have you found, Sarah?" "The quantum field distortions are unlike anything in our database. They're organized, deliberate." Sarah manipulated the holographic display, expanding the view to show the complex patterns of energy rippling through space. "Something's coming. Something big." Walsh's expression remained neutral, but her fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on the railing. "How many?" "At least 3,000 distinct signatures, moving in formation. They're using some kind of drive system that distorts space-time itself." Sarah paused, bringing up another set of readings. "And they're accelerating toward the inner solar system." Walsh nodded once, then pressed her palm against a seemingly blank section of wall. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a quantum entanglement communicator, technology that officially wouldn't exist for another 50 years. "This is Director Walsh, Priority Alpha. Execute Protocol Watchman. Authorization: Omega-7 Delta 9. Across the solar system, humanity's carefully maintained facade began to shift. Beneath the ice of Europa, fusion reactors that had lain dormant for decades hummed to life. In the clouds of Venus, cloaked monitoring stations activated their defense grids. And in a secure facility deep beneath the Mariana Trench, Admiral Maya Patil opened her eyes as the alert reached her command center. "It's time," she said simply to her assembled staff. "Begin the awakening." On the surface, Earth continued its daily routine. Cities buzzed with activity, satellites maintained their predictable orbits, and radio telescopes swept the sky with primitive radar. But beneath this carefully choreographed performance, humanity's true capabilities stirred from their long slumber. Back on Pluto Station, Sarah watched as new data flooded her screens. "Director, we're getting readings from the incoming vessels. They're scanning us. The entire system." "Let them look," Walsh replied, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "They'll see exactly what we want them to see." The alien fleet moved with precision through the Kuiper Belt, their massive ships displacing ice and rock with gravitational fields that defied conventional physics. Their scans swept through the solar system, examining each planet and moon with methodical thoroughness. In her underwater command center, Admiral Patel watched the incoming data with practiced calm. The aliens' technology was impressive, but not unexpected. Humanity had prepared for this moment since the first quantum signatures were detected at the edge of the solar system, decades ago. "Status of the Ghost Grid," she asked her chief technical officer. "Fully operational, Admiral. All quantum nodes are synchronized and cloaked. The alien scans are passing right through them, just as designed." Patel nodded. The Ghost Grid represented centuries of human innovation, a vast network of quantum-linked satellites and stations that remained completely invisible to conventional detection methods. While Earth appeared to be a primitive world still struggling with basic spaceflight, its true defensive capabilities were beyond anything the approaching fleet could imagine. On Pluto Station, Sarah continued to analyze the alien vessels. Their hull composition is extraordinary, some kind of self-repairing metamaterial. But there's something else. She manipulated the quantum sensors, probing deeper. "Their drives are leaving quantum wake patterns. We could use that." Walsh moved to another console, entering a series of commands. "Transmit your findings to Central Command. Maya will want to see this." As the data streamed through quantum channels to Earth, the alien fleet passed Neptune's orbit. Their formation was perfect, their approach vector calculated to maximize their tactical advantage against a primitive civilization. They had no way of knowing that every move they made was being analyzed by systems far more advanced than their own. In the Mariana Command Center, Admiral Patel reviewed the data from Pluto Station. "They're using a variant of Coleman-Chen drive technology," she observed. "Interesting. They developed it along different lines than we did." Her technical officer looked up from his station. "Should we power up the defensive grid?" "Not yet. Let them come closer. Let them think they've caught us unaware." Patel's dark eyes tracked the fleet's movement on the main display. "Humanity has waited centuries for this moment. We can wait a few more hours." The alien fleet continued its advance, unaware that they were playing directly into humanity's hands. Their scans showed exactly what Earth wanted them to see: a planet still divided by national boundaries, struggling with fossil fuels, and barely able to maintain a primitive space station in low orbit. They didn't detect the quantum matrix hidden in Earth's magnetosphere, capable of redirecting energy on a scale that would make their most powerful weapons seem like firecrackers. They missed the nanofabrication facilities buried beneath the lunar surface, ready to produce billions of autonomous defense units at a moment's notice. And they had no idea that their every movement was being predicted and analyzed by quantum computers that made their own AI systems look like pocket calculators. As the fleet approached the asteroid belt, Sarah made another discovery. "Director, I'm detecting communication signals between their ships. They're using quantum entanglement, but..." She paused, double-checking her readings. "Their encryption is primitive compared to ours. We could break it." Walsh's smile widened slightly. "Do it. Let's hear what our visitors have to say." Within minutes, the alien communications began flowing through Pluto Station's quantum processors. The messages were clear. They saw Earth as an easy target, a primitive world ripe for conquest. Their plan was to offer humanity a choice: submit to their authority or face immediate destruction. It was a scenario humanity had prepared for since the first hints of alien civilization were detected. Every advancement in technology, every scientific breakthrough had been carefully hidden behind a facade of normal development. While the world's population went about their lives, the best minds of each generation had worked in secret to prepare for this moment. Admiral Patel reviewed the decoded communications with satisfaction. The aliens' overconfidence would be their undoing. "Begin Phase 2, she ordered. "Let's show our visitors that appearances can be deceiving." Across the solar system, humanity's hidden sensors tracked the approaching fleet. In a few hours, the aliens would make their presence known to Earth, expecting to find a helpless civilization cowering before their superior technology. Instead, they would learn a lesson that countless species across the galaxy would soon come to understand. Never underestimate humanity's capacity for innovation, especially when they have time to prepare. As the alien fleet crossed Mars' orbit, Sarah Chen watched the quantum readings with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Humanity's greatest performance was about to begin, and she had a front-row seat to history in the making. "They have no idea, do they?" she asked softly. Director Walsh shook her head. "That's the beauty of it, Sarah. They're about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that looks like prey." The alien fleet entered high Earth orbit with military precision, their massive ships arranging themselves in a sphere around the planet. From the surface, they appeared as new stars in the daylight sky, drawing the attention of billions. Global communications erupted with panic and speculation, exactly as humanity's leadership had planned. Admiral Patel stood in the Mariana Command Center, watching the carefully orchestrated chaos unfold on the world's media networks. Status of the civilian response protocols. Operating within expected parameters, her political liaison, Dr. Marcus Wong, reported. Social media is flooding with amateur footage. News networks are broadcasting continuous coverage. The planetary defense councils are making appropriately confused and alarmed statements. And our actual defense systems. Her chief of operations, Colonel Sarah Rodriguez, smiled. Ghost Grid is maintaining full coverage. Quantum nodes are tracking every ship in their fleet. The Lazarus Protocol is armed and ready, just waiting for your command. The first transmission from the alien fleet came exactly as predicted, broadcasting simultaneously on all Earth's major communication frequencies. The holographic image that appeared in the command center showed a towering figure that seemed to be a hybrid of organic and mechanical parts. Its voice resonated with artificial harmonics that gave away its synthetic nature. People of Earth, I am Supreme Commander Xarketh of the Collective. Your world has been chosen for integration into our perfect union. Resistance would be unfortunate. Patel nodded to Dr. Wong, who activated the prepared response protocols. Across the globe, governments reacted with a carefully choreographed mix of fear, defiance, and confusion. Military forces were mobilized in highly visible but strategically meaningless ways. Nuclear arsenals were placed on high alert, weapons that hadn't been relevant to Earth's actual defense capabilities for over a century. Your species shows promise, Xarketh continued. Your genetic diversity will strengthen the collective. Submit willingly, and you will be permitted to maintain limited autonomy under our guidance. Refuse, and we will take what we want by force. You have 6 hours to provide your answer. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in momentary silence. Colonel Rodriguez checked her displays. They're deploying scanning platforms around the planet, trying to assess our military capabilities. Let them look, Paddle replied. Maintain Ghost Protocol at current levels. How long until the quantum wake analysis is complete? 3 more hours. Dr. Chen's data from Pluto Station was perfect. We'll have a complete map of their drive signatures by then. On the surface, the world's militaries put on an impressive show of force. Fighter jets scrambled, missiles were armed, and soldiers marched. The collective sensors recorded it all, building a picture of a primitive species trying desperately to mount a defense with inadequate technology. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, humanity's true military capability waited silently. The quantum defense grid, invisible to conventional detection methods, had already mapped every weakness in the collective's fleet. Nanofabrication facilities on the dark side of the moon were producing millions of microscopic defensive units per second, each one more advanced than anything the collective possessed. Incoming transmission from Pluto Station, announced Dr. Wong. Director Walsh has completed her analysis of their communication protocols. Sarah Chen's face appeared on a secondary display. Admiral, their quantum encryption is based on a simplified version of the Huang-Patterson algorithm. We can not only read their transmissions but inject our own data if needed. They'll never detect the intrusion. Excellent work, Doctor. Begin passive monitoring of their internal communications. I want to know everything they're saying to each other. The first intercepted messages were revealing. The collective's commanders were already discussing how to divide Earth's resources among their various factions. They debated which human populations would be most useful for genetic harvesting, which cities should be preserved as administrative centers, and which should be simply eliminated. They're so certain of their victory, Rodriguez observed, her voice tight with controlled anger. That certainty is their weakness, Paddle replied. Status of the Lazarus Protocol. All systems green. The quantum matrix is fully charged and synchronized across all nodes. We can activate at your command. In orbit, the collective continued their show of force. Several smaller ships broke formation to take up positions over major cities, their weapon systems clearly visible to Earth's primitive sensors. More scanning platforms deployed, probing deeper into the planet's atmosphere. They're starting to detect some anomalies, Wong reported, monitoring the intercepted communications. Their scans are showing some inconsistencies in our atmospheric composition. They're attributing it to industrial pollution. Patel allowed herself a small smile. The pollution was actually a layer of programmable nanomaterials that had been accumulating in the upper atmosphere for decades. When activated, it would form part of Earth's most sophisticated defensive system. But for now, It appeared to be nothing more than the byproduct of a civilization that hadn't mastered clean energy. "Admiral," Chen's voice came through again from Pluto Station. "We're detecting power buildups in several of their larger vessels. I think they're preparing for a demonstration of force." "Right on schedule," Patel nodded. "Status of the civilian evacuation protocols." "Underground facilities are ready," Rodriguez confirmed. "The moment they make their move, we can have every major population center secured within minutes." The collective's demonstration came 3 hours into their ultimatum. A beam of energy lanced down from one of their smaller ships, vaporizing an uninhabited island in the Pacific. The explosion was visible from space, carefully calculated to demonstrate their power while avoiding actual casualties. As the final minutes of the collective's ultimatum ticked away, Supreme Commander Tarketh stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth's primitive communications networks with something approaching amusement. Their attempts at organizing a unified response had been chaotic and ineffective, exactly what he'd expected from a pre-spacefaring civilization. He didn't notice when Earth's quantum defense grid silently mapped every system on his ship, down to the molecular level. "The deadline approaches," his second-in-command announced. "Their military forces remain in disarray. Their leaders continue to argue among themselves." "Send the final warning," Exarcheth ordered. "Let them see what awaits those who defy the collective." In the Mariana Command Center, Admiral Patel watched the alien transmission with her senior staff. The collective's final message was exactly as arrogant as expected, filled with threats and demands. As it concluded, she turned to Colonel Rodriguez. "Execute Phase 3. The first sign that something was wrong came from the collective's engineering crews. Across their fleet, quantum drive signatures began fluctuating in ways their systems couldn't explain. Power levels shifted unpredictably, shield harmonics destabilized, and communication networks experienced microsecond delays. "Supreme Commander," one of Exarcheth's technical officers called out, "we're detecting unusual energy patterns throughout the fleet." "Source: unknown. Our sensors show nothing unusual in the local space. Deep beneath the lunar surface, billions of quantum-linked nanomachines activated simultaneously. Each one was smaller than a human cell, virtually undetectable to conventional scanning technology. They had been waiting in Earth's orbital space for decades, gradually deployed by satellites that appeared to be nothing more than communications relays and weather monitors. Energy fluctuations increasing, the technical officer reported, his artificial voice showing the first hints of concern. Shield efficiency dropping by 0.3%. 0.5. 0.8. Impossible, Tarketh snapped. Their technology is centuries behind ours. They can't affect our systems. On Pluto Station, Dr. Chen watched through quantum-linked sensors as Earth's defense system began its work. "The nanite swarms are performing exactly as designed," she reported to Director Walsh. "Phase 1 disruption is proceeding at optimal efficiency." Walsh nodded, sending the data to Admiral Patel's command center. "Begin Phase 2 targeting. Let's show them what real quantum manipulation looks like." The collective's fleet suddenly found itself fighting an enemy they couldn't see or understand. Their advanced shields, designed to stop any known form of energy or matter, were being bypassed by particles that seemed to ignore the normal laws of physics. Critical systems began reporting impossible errors, molecular structures shifting without apparent cause, quantum states changing randomly, energy patterns dissolving into chaos. "Supreme Commander," the technical officer's voice had lost all pretense of calm. "We're detecting massive power fluctuations in all secondary systems, primary systems showing signs of quantum destabilization. Launch the attack," Exarcheth ordered. "Show these primitives the price of resistance." The collective's weapons powered up, preparing to rain destruction on Earth's major cities. But something was wrong. Energy wouldn't flow properly through their targeting systems. Weapon capacitors charged erratically. Navigation computers reported spatial distortions that shouldn't have been possible. In the Mariana Command Center, Admiral Patel watched the collective's confusion, with grim satisfaction. Status of the Ghost Grid. Operating at full capacity, Rodriguez reported. Their entire fleet is contained within our quantum manipulation field. They still haven't detected the source of their problems. Incoming transmission from the collective flagship, Dr. Wong announced. They're demanding to know what we're doing to their ships. Put them through, Patel ordered. It's time they learned who they're really dealing with. Exarcheth's image appeared, his mechanical features showing signs of strain. What treachery is this? How are you interfering with our systems? No treachery, Supreme Commander, Patel replied calmly. Just the consequence of making assumptions about a species you didn't fully understand. Your sensors showed you what we wanted them to see, a primitive civilization barely able to reach its own moon. The reality is somewhat different. As if to emphasize her point, one of the collective's smaller ships suddenly lost all power, its quantum drive core shutting down as billions of nanomachines rewrote its fundamental structure at the atomic level. Impossible, Exarcheth whispered. Your technology. You can't have this level of quantum manipulation. We've had it for over a century, Patel corrected him. Along with many other advances we chose to keep hidden. Your quantum drives, for instance, we developed similar technology 50 years ago, then moved beyond it. Your shield systems are impressive, but they're based on principles we mastered and improved upon decades ago. Another ship went dark, then another. The collective's mighty fleet, which had thought itself invincible, found itself being systematically disabled by an enemy they couldn't even detect. Your ships are now under our control, Patel continued. We've quantum-locked your drive cores, weapon systems, and shield generators. You'll find your artificial gravity is still functioning. We're not needlessly cruel. But you won't be threatening any more worlds with these vessels. On the tactical displays, the Ghost Grid continued its work. Earth's quantum defense system, hidden for so long, demonstrated just how far humanity had advanced while maintaining their primitive facade. Why? Exarcheth demanded. Why hide your true capabilities? Because we were watching, Patel explained. We saw how the collective dealt with advanced civilizations, immediate aggression, attempted conquest, forced integration. But primitive worlds were studied, evaluated, given time to develop. So we gave you what you expected to see, while preparing for this moment. Dr. Chen's voice came through from Pluto Station. Admiral, we're detecting quantum surge buildups in several of their larger vessels. I think they're attempting to overload their cores. A futile gesture, Patel addressed Exarcheth. Your quantum cores are already under our control at the molecular level. You can't even initiate a self-destruct sequence without our permission. The Supreme Commander's artificial features twisted in what might have been rage. You expect us to simply surrender? No, Patel replied. We expect you to learn. Humanity isn't interested in conquest or domination. We could have destroyed your entire fleet the moment it entered our solar system. Instead, we're offering you a choice. Leave peacefully and carry a message back to the collective. Earth is not a target. We are not primitive. We are not weak. And we are not interested in being part of your perfect union. As if to emphasize her point, the quantum manipulation field surrounding the collective's fleet intensified. Their ship's external sensors came back online just long enough to detect the true extent of Earth's defensive capabilities. The billions of quantum-linked nanomachines, the energy manipulation grid that encompassed the entire solar system, the advanced technology that had been hidden beneath a carefully maintained veneer of primitive development. The choice is yours, Supreme Commander, Patel concluded, but choose quickly. Our patience, while considerable, is not infinite. Supreme Commander Exarcheth stood motionless on his flagship's bridge, his cybernetic systems struggling to process the reality of his situation. The mighty collective fleet, which had conquered 1,000 worlds, hung powerless in Earth's orbit. But it wasn't just their technology that had been neutralized, it was their entire understanding of what was possible. Your response, Commander. Admiral Patel's voice carried no trace of triumph or arrogance, just calm certainty. Before Exarcheth could answer, his internal communication system crackled. "Supreme Commander," his chief scientist's voice was urgent. "We've completed our analysis of their defensive system. It's beyond anything in our records." In the Mariana Command Center, Colonel Rodriguez monitored the collective's internal communications with growing satisfaction. "They're starting to understand, Admiral. Their scientific division is in complete disarray, trying to explain our quantum manipulation technology." "Show them the Lazarus Protocol," Patel ordered. "Let them see exactly what they're dealing with." Across Earth's atmosphere, trillions of nanomachines suddenly aligned themselves into visible patterns. The sky itself seemed to shimmer as humanity's most advanced defensive system revealed itself. To the collective sensors, it appeared as if reality itself was being rewritten. "Impossible," Sarketh whispered. "Your entire atmosphere, it's a quantum computer." "Among other things," Patel confirmed. "What you're seeing is just one layer of our defensive capabilities. The Lazarus Protocol isn't just a weapon or a shield. It's a system for manipulating the fundamental forces of the universe itself." To demonstrate her point, a small section of the quantum field shifted. One of the collective's disabled scout ships simply vanished. No explosion, no energy discharge. It was there one moment, gone the next, as if it had never existed. "We didn't destroy it," Patel explained, noting the shock in Exarcheth's expression. "We simply shifted it into a parallel quantum state. We can bring it back whenever we choose. Your crew is perfectly safe, just temporarily relocated." On Pluto Station, Dr. Chen watched the quantum readings with professional appreciation. "The collective scientists are trying to scan the Lazarus field," she reported. "They're starting to realize that their entire understanding of quantum mechanics is elementary by comparison." Director Walsh nodded. "Show them the gravity manipulation next. Let's not leave any doubt about our capabilities." In orbit, the remaining collective ships suddenly found themselves enclosed in localized gravitational fields. Not the crude artificial gravity they used in their vessels, but precise manipulations of space-time itself. Their massive ships began moving in complex patterns, controlled with microscopic precision by Earth's defense grid. "This is a fraction of what we can do," Patel continued. "We could fold space around your fleet, sending you millions of light-years away in an instant. We could accelerate time within your ships until millennia pass, while seconds tick by outside. We could split each of your vessels into quantum duplicates across 1,000 parallel dimensions." "Why?" Karketh demanded. "If you possess such power, why reveal it only now? Why not dominate the galaxy yourselves?" "Because that's the fundamental difference between us, Commander. Humanity didn't develop these technologies for conquest. We built them for defense, for exploration, for understanding the universe itself. We kept them hidden not out of fear, but because we wanted to see how other species would treat us when they thought we were vulnerable." The quantum display shifted again, and suddenly the collective sensors detected something new, or rather, something that had been there all along. Vast networks of quantum-linked satellites throughout the solar system. Research stations hidden beneath the surfaces of every major moon and planet. A web of technology so advanced it made their most sophisticated systems look primitive by comparison. "Your civilization has failed our test, Commander." Patel's voice was tinged with genuine regret. "You came here seeking to conquer what you thought was a primitive species. You showed us exactly who you are, and what the collective truly represents." In the command center, Dr. Wang monitored the diplomatic channels. "Other species are watching, Admiral. The collective's communication network extends far beyond their fleet. This demonstration will be seen across the galaxy." "Good," Patel replied. "Let them all understand what happens when you mistake patience for weakness." The quantum field rippled again, and another collective ship vanished. Then another. One by one, their mighty fleet was being shifted out of normal space-time, their crews helpless to resist or even understand the technology being used against them. "This is your final warning, Commander," Patel addressed Tarketh. "We will return your ships and crews, but you will leave this solar system. You will take word back to the collective that Earth is not a target for conquest. We are not interested in war, but we are more than capable of defending ourselves." To emphasize her point, the Lazarus Protocol activated its final phase. The quantum field surrounding Earth briefly became visible from space, a shimmering barrier of pure energy that encompassed the entire planet. The collective sensors, finally allowed to see it clearly, registered power levels that went beyond their ability to measure. "If you ever return with hostile intent," Patel continued, "if you ever threaten Earth or any of our future colonies, you will find that what we've shown you today was merely a fraction of our true capabilities. Do you understand?" Exarcheth, Supreme Commander of the mighty collective fleet, ruler of 1,000 conquered worlds, did something he had never done before. He bowed his head in submission. "We understand, Admiral. The collective withdraws its claim on Earth. We will carry your message to our leadership." "A wise choice," Patel replied. "Prepare your crew for quantum reintegration. We'll return your ships one at a time. And Commander, remember this day. Remember what happened when you tried to hunt what you didn't understand." 3 months after the collective's retreat, Admiral Maya Patel stood in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly Chamber in Geneva. The massive structure, revealed to have been hidden beneath the Alps for decades, now served as humanity's official contact point with extraterrestrial civilizations. The room was filled with representatives from 24 spacefaring species, many of whom had arrived shortly after news of the collective's defeat spread across the galaxy. The quantum matrices are detecting heightened emotional responses from several species, Dr. Chen reported from her new position at the science station. Particularly the Arctians. "They seem nervous." "As they should be," Director Walsh replied, standing beside Patel. "Their ships were spotted scouting our colonies on Mars last year. They thought we wouldn't notice." The chamber's quantum field hummed softly, translating dozens of alien languages simultaneously as various representatives demanded explanations, offered alliances, or simply tried to understand how humanity had hidden its true nature for so long. "Your deception was comprehensive," the Arxian ambassador admitted, his crystalline form shifting colors as he spoke. "Our long-range surveys showed nothing but primitive satellites and basic space stations." "That was the point," Patel responded. "Every spacefaring race we detected approached Earth the same way, watching, waiting, judging our worth based on what they could see. We showed you what you expected to see, while preparing for every possible scenario." The holographic display in the center of the chamber activated, showing the true extent of human development throughout the solar system. Hidden cities beneath the Martian surface, quantum research facilities in Venus's upper atmosphere, antimatter production plants in Mercury's core. Technological achievements that most of the assembled species had thought impossible. "But why?" demanded the collective's new representative, a replacement for the disgraced Katharketh. "Why maintain such an elaborate facade?" "Because it revealed character," Dr. Wong explained, stepping forward. "How a species treats those they believe to be less advanced says more about them than any diplomatic overture. Some of you came as observers, some as potential conquerors, others simply waiting to see if we would destroy ourselves." On the massive screens surrounding the chamber, images appeared showing various alien vessels that had visited Earth's solar system over the past century. Each one had been detected, analyzed, and carefully monitored without ever realizing they were being watched. "Your civilization showed us exactly who you were," Patel continued. "The collective sought to conquer. The Arctians looked for resources to exploit. The Ventari Confederation waited to scavenge whatever remained after our predicted self-destruction. The assembled representatives shifted uncomfortably as their species' true intentions were laid bare. "But not all of you came with hostile intent," Patel acknowledged, nodding to a group of representatives from the Alderaan Alliance. "Some genuinely sought to understand, to help if needed, to welcome a new species into the galactic community. Those are the relationships we're interested in building. Dr. Chen's quantum sensors detected increased activity from several of the more militant species. Admiral, the collective ships in orbit are powering up their long-range communicators. Let them, Paddle replied. What they're about to see should be shared with their leadership. The chamber's quantum field intensified, and suddenly the representatives found themselves surrounded by a three-dimensional display of humanity's true defensive capabilities. The Lazarus Protocol, now fully visible, showed power levels that made several alien scientific advisors gasp in disbelief. Earth is no longer hiding, Patil announced. We've shown you a fraction of what we can do. Now we're offering you a choice. We can be allies or adversaries, partners in exploration and discovery, or examples of what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. To emphasize her point, the quantum display shifted to show the gas giants of the outer solar system. Massive structures emerged from within Jupiter's storms, construction facilities that had been hidden for decades, capable of producing ships and technology far beyond anything the assembled species possessed. Humanity's path forward is up to you, Patil continued. We're not interested in conquest or domination. We've had the capability to expand throughout the galaxy for generations. Instead, we chose to wait, to observe, to understand the community we would eventually join. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. Humanity hadn't just defended itself against the collective. It had revealed itself as one of the most technologically advanced species in known space. There will be new protocols, Director Walsh announced, stepping forward. New treaties, new understandings. Earth's colonies throughout the solar system are now visible to your sensors. Our quantum defense grid remains active. Any aggressive action against human settlements or vessels will be met with immediate response. But Dr. Wong added, his voice carrying a note of hope, we're also opening our scientific and cultural exchange programs. Species that demonstrate peaceful intentions will find humanity to be a willing partner in exploration and discovery. The quantum field rippled again, and new data flowed through the chamber's information networks. Breakthrough discoveries in quantum mechanics, advances in energy production, medical technologies that could revolutionize healthcare across the galaxy, all offered freely to those who chose cooperation over conflict. The age of hiding is over, Admiral Patel concluded. Humanity steps into the galactic community not as a primitive species to be conquered or exploited, but as equals, perhaps more than equals in some regards. What happens next depends on you. As the assembly processed this declaration, Dr. Chen's quantum sensors detected something remarkable. Fear and aggression readings from the militant species were being replaced by something else, respect, and perhaps a touch of awe. The Lazarus Protocol is detecting quantum signature changes in several species representatives, she reported quietly. They're sending emergency updates to their homeworlds. The galaxy's power structure is shifting as we speak. Admiral Patel allowed herself a small smile. Centuries of preparation, of patient waiting and careful observation, had led to this moment. Humanity had revealed itself not through conquest or destruction, but through a demonstration of power tempered by wisdom. The silent guardians were silent no more, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Tauri ship materialized above Earth's atmosphere with little warning, its crystalline hull refracting sunlight in mesmerizing patterns. Global defense systems immediately locked onto the vessel, but no hostile action followed. Instead, a simple message broadcast on all frequencies. We come seeking assistance. Please help us. General Elena Reyes stood at the United Nations Security Council chamber window, watching the alien ship hovering in low orbit via the enhanced display. At 52, she'd spent 3 decades in military service, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. First contact had finally arrived, not with a bang, but with a plea. They've been in orbit for 6 hours, said Admiral Chen, joining her at the window, still broadcasting the same message. And our linguists? Elena asked. Working on it. The message came in perfect English, but we're having trouble with their replies. Their language is complex, multiple tonal layers we can't replicate. The Security Council chambers buzzed with activity as representatives from every major nation huddled in emergency session. Scientists and military personnel moved between groups, sharing the limited information they had gathered. "General Reyes," a voice called. Elena turned to see Dr. Haruki Nakamura, the UN's leading xenolinguistics expert. "We've established rudimentary communication. They're requesting landing clearance. 1 ship, 5 representatives." Elena studied the scientist's face. "Your recommendation." "Granted," Nakamura said without hesitation. "Whatever they're running from, they're desperate." 3 hours later, Elena stood on her runway at Geneva International Airport, watching as the Tory shuttle descended. Unlike their orbiting mothership, this vessel was small and utilitarian. It touched down silently, a ramp extending before any human could approach. 5 figures emerged, walking with a fluid grace that seemed almost choreographed. They stood slightly taller than the average human, with iridescent blue-gray skin that shimmered under the floodlights. Their faces bore 4 eyes, 2 large primary ones and 2 smaller ones above, arranged around a central nostril slit. They wore no apparent clothing, but their bodies seemed covered in natural plates that moved with them. The lead Tory approached Elena and the assembled delegation. It raised both 7-fingered hands, palms outward in a universal gesture of peace. "I am Ambassador Seleth," it said, its voice melodic, but clearly artificial, coming from a small device at its throat. "We thank you for receiving us in this dire hour." "Welcome to Earth," Elena replied formally. "I'm General Elena Reyes, representing the United Nations Security Council." The meeting room inside the UN headquarters had been hastily prepared. The Tories sat awkwardly in human chairs, their digitigrade legs not designed for such furniture. Seleth looked exhausted, Elena thought, if she was correctly reading the alien's body language. "We have observed your world for decades," Seleth began, "hoping we would never need to make contact like this. But we face extinction and have nowhere else to turn." Holographic images appeared above the table. Beautiful worlds with architecture that seemed grown rather than built, cities integrated perfectly with their environments. Then the images change, showing the same worlds burning, crystal structures shattered, and Tari being herded into ships. "The Drax Collective," Seleth explained, "a species evolved from pack predators. They've subjugated 17 species already. We're the 18th to fall under their expansion. You have technology far beyond ours," pointed out the Chinese representative. "Why come to us?" Seleth's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of sorrow, Elena guessed. "Technology isn't everything when facing the Drax," the ambassador responded. "They breed rapidly, adapt quickly, and possess a single-mindedness we cannot match. Their ships are less advanced than ours, but there are thousands for each one we can field." Seleth paused, mandibles clicking softly. "But most importantly, we Tari evolved as cooperative creatures. We lack the warrior spirit. And you think we have it?" asked the Russian president, his expression skeptical. "We know you do," Seleth replied. "Your history is written in conflict. You prepare for war even in times of peace. You build weapons when no enemy threatens. Most species would view this as primitive barbarism. Most species aren't facing extermination," Elena noted dryly. "Precisely," Seleth said. "We've studied your world wars, your Cold War mobilization. No species we've encountered can transform their entire society for conflict as rapidly as humans. This ability to unify against threats, it's unique." The Security Council debated through the night. Some nations refused involvement, citing the risks of interstellar war. Others saw opportunity in alien technology. By morning, the vote stood narrowly in favor of intervention. When Elena delivered the news, Seleth's body pulsed with color, the Tari equivalent of tears. "You have saved my people," the ambassador said. Elena shook her head slowly. Don't thank me yet. You asked for help, and we'll give it. But I don't think you understand what that means. Seleth tilted its head. What do you mean? When humans go to war, Elena said, we don't do half measures. The Dracs are about to learn what total war truly means. The United Earth Defense Force was formed within weeks. For the first time in human history, soldiers from every nation trained together under a single command. Colonel Marcus Williams stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Armstrong Station, watching as shuttles ferried troops and supplies from Earth. At 38, with combat experience across 3 continents, Marcus had been selected to lead the 1st Human Combat Battalion. Below him, in the station's massive hangar, human engineers worked alongside Tauri scientists, adapting alien technology for war. Impressive progress, Ambassador Seleth said, joining him at the viewport. Your people have accomplished in weeks what would take the Tauri years. When facing extinction, humans don't waste time with committees, Marcus replied. We get to work. In another section of the station, intelligence officer Sophia Okafor studied Drax combat footage. The aliens moved with frightening speed, their chitinous exoskeletons deflecting most Tauri weapons. There, she said, freezing a frame, the junction between thorax and abdomen. Their armor is thinner there. Her team made notes. They had been working around the clock, learning everything about the enemy they would soon face. Their ships are faster than anything we have, one analyst noted. Speed isn't everything, Sophia replied. We don't need to outrun them. We just need to hit them where it hurts. On Earth, factories that once produced consumer goods were retooled for war production. Farmland was expanded to ensure food security. Children practiced emergency drills in schools. The entire planet mobilized in a way not seen since the 1940s. Ambassador Seleth watched with growing concern as Earth transformed. Is this normal? The alien asked Marcus as they toured a training facility where thousands practiced urban combat. Marcus nodded. This is how humans wage war. But you haven't even met the Dracs yet, Seleth observed. Doesn't matter, Marcus replied. If we're going to fight, we prepare to win at any cost. The words seemed to disturb the ambassador deeply. 2 months into preparation, alarm sirens blared across Armstrong Station. A Drax scout ship had been detected near Jupiter, observing human activity. This is our chance, Admiral Kowalski told her officers. Capture that ship intact. A small strike team led by Marcus launched in a stealth vessel. Using Jupiter's magnetic field for cover, the operation was swift and brutal. 3 humans died, but they secured the Drax ship and 2 live prisoners. Their tech is impressive, Sophia told Admiral Kowalski as they examined the captured vessel. But their tactics are predictable. They rely too much on brute force. Pride, Kowalski said. They've conquered so many worlds they think they're invincible. That will be their downfall, Sophia agreed. On the day the Earth fleet prepared to launch, Admiral Kowalski addressed the 40,000 soldiers under her command. We go to fight an enemy that believes itself superior to all life in the galaxy, she said. They have never faced humans before. They have never experienced total war. We fight not just to win battles, but to end wars. As the fleet prepared to depart, Seleth approached Marcus one last time. We asked for help, the Tauri said quietly. I fear we've unleashed something we don't understand. Marcus's expression was grim. You wanted warriors, he said. That's what you're getting. The first human warfleet in history activated their Tauri-enhanced engines and disappeared into the depths of space, carrying humanity's answer to the Drax threat. The Tauri colony world of Elysium hung in space like a wounded jewel. Once a beautiful azure planet with crystal cities, it now bore ugly scars where Drax mining operations had torn open the surface. Dark smoke rose from processing facilities where Tauri prisoners worked until collapse. In orbit, 12 Drax warships patrolled, their insectoid design mirroring their creators, all sharp angles and weaponized limbs. The Drax believed the system secure. They were wrong. Human ships emerged from hyperspace at precisely calculated points surrounding the planet. Unlike the elegant Tory vessels or the predatory Drax craft, Earth's warships were blocky and utilitarian, their hulls bristling with weapons. On the bridge of the flagship Retribution, Admiral Kowalski watched the enemy vessels with cold calculation. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her communications officer said. "Operation Thunderstrike is go," Kowalski ordered. "Begin." The human fleet opened fire simultaneously. They had studied Drax shield configurations for weeks and knew exactly where to hit. 5 enemy ships exploded before they could even raise alarms. "Ground teams deploy now," Kowalski commanded. Across the human fleet, drop ships launched toward the planet's surface. Major Layla Cowrie sat with her squad, checking her weapon one final time. The former Special Forces operator had trained her team relentlessly for this moment. "Remember," she told them, "the Drax have never faced humans before. They expect enemies to follow rules. We don't play by their rules." The dropship shuddered as it entered atmosphere. Around them, other vessels were being shot down by ground defenses. Layla watched through the viewport as one exploded in midair. 10 seconds to landing," the pilot shouted. They hit the ground hard. The doors blew open, and Layla led her squad into chaos. The Drax ground forces were terrifying. Standing nearly 8 feet tall with natural armor and multiple limbs ending in razor-sharp claws, they moved with frightening speed, but they had never faced human weapons before. Layla fired her rifle, the special ammunition designed by Sophia's team punching through Drax armor at precisely the weak points they had identified. The alien let out a high-pitched shriek as it fell. "Move toward the processing facility," Layla ordered. Her squad advanced through Drax defenses using tactics the aliens had never encountered. Where Tari fought in organized formations, humans used cover, misdirection, and ambush. Where Tari retreated when outnumbered, humans charged. The fighting was brutal. Layla lost 5 soldiers in the first hour, but they reached the facility where thousands of Tory were held prisoner. "We're from Earth," she told the first blue-skinned alien she encountered. "We're here to free you." The Tory stared at her with 4 wide eyes. "Earth?" The humans came. "Yes," Layla said, cutting restraints from a group of prisoners. "Now help us free the others." In orbit, the space battle had become a slaughter. Drax reinforcements arrived only to be caught in Admiral Kowalski's carefully planned trap. Sophia's intelligence had been perfect. The Drax ships were faster and more heavily armed, but their captains were predictable, using the same tactics that had worked against the Tory. "They're retreating, Admiral," Kowalski's tactical officer reported. 3 enemy ships escaping to hyperspace. "Let them go," Kowalski ordered. "I want them to tell their leaders what happened here." By nightfall, Elysium was secured. Over 5,000 Tory had been freed from labor camps. The cost had been high, minus 214 humans dead, hundreds more wounded, but the victory was total. Ambassador Seleth, who had accompanied the fleet, walked through the main camp where the rescued Tory gathered. They looked at the humans with a mixture of gratitude and fear. "I had no idea," Seleth said to Marcus. "The way your people fight. This is just the beginning," Marcus replied. "The Drax wanted an enemy. Now they've got one." Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread. Species that had bowed to Drax rule for generations began to whisper a new word: human. In the heart of Drax territory, the High Matriarch received the reports from Elysium with disbelief. These humans, it chittered to its council, mandibles clicking furiously. What kind of species fights like this? No one had an answer. But soon, they would all learn. The Drax High Matriarch stood before the holographic display, its segmented carapace vibrating with fury. 8 more colony worlds had fallen to the humans in the past month. No species had ever inflicted such losses on the collective. "These creatures must be exterminated," it declared to the War Council, its voice a series of harsh clicks and chirps. Divert the third and fifth fleets. Find their homeworld. On the liberated Tauri world of Meridian, Dr. Aisha Rahman worked tirelessly with a team of Tauri scientists. The humans had established a temporary research base, while former prisoners rebuilt their crystal cities. Rahman, a xenolinguist and code specialist, had been trying to crack the Drax communication system for weeks. "There's a pattern here," she told her Tauri colleague, pointing to frequency waveforms on her display. "Their language doesn't just use words, it uses harmonics." The blue-skinned alien adjusted its translation device. "Like music." "Exactly," Rahman said with growing excitement. "They're singing to each other." Their breakthrough came just in time. The devices they built could now intercept and translate Drax communications. What they heard chilled them to the core. "They're going to attack Earth," Rahman told Admiral Kowalski via holographic link. "3 massive fleets are already moving." Kowalski's face showed no emotion, but her voice was steel. "How long do we have?" 4 days at most. "We'll never get back in time," Marcus said from beside the Admiral. "No," she agreed. "But Earth isn't defenseless." Back on Earth, the warning triggered an emergency response. Orbital defense platforms that had been under construction were rushed into service. Military units worldwide moved to defensive positions. Civilians headed to underground shelters built during the frantic months of preparation. When the Drax fleets arrived, they expected to find a primitive world, easy to conquer. Instead, they encountered a planet bristling with weapons. The battle for Earth lasted 18 hours. The Drax had numbers and technology on their side, but humans were fighting for their home. The orbital platforms took a terrible toll on the alien ships. When the Drax landed troops, they faced not just soldiers but armed civilians fighting block by block. In low Earth orbit, Lieutenant Commander Javier Diaz commanded the last functioning defense platform. Half his crew was dead, and oxygen was running low. "Target their command ship," he ordered. "Full power to the main gun." The massive energy weapon fired one last time before the platform's reactors failed. The beam cut through the Drax flagship, sending it tumbling toward Earth's atmosphere, where it burned up like a second sun. The remaining Drax ships retreated, but the victory came at a terrible cost. Cities around the world lay in ruins. Millions were dead. The space around Earth was filled with debris from destroyed ships and stations. Meanwhile, Admiral Kowalski had not been idle. Learning of the attack on Earth, she implemented what she called Protocol Scorched Earth. Human forces struck deep into Drax territory, hitting supply bases and shipyards. They didn't try to hold ground. They simply destroyed everything and moved on. Major Layla Cowrie and her squad found themselves trapped behind enemy lines on the contested world of Nexus. They had been conducting sabotage operations when their extraction ship was shot down. "We need to keep moving," Layla told her remaining 8 soldiers. "If we stay in one place, they'll find us." For 12 days, they moved only at night, destroying Drax facilities and ambushing patrols. They became ghosts, striking from nowhere and vanishing before reinforcements arrived. The Drax put a price on Cowrie's head, calling her the Shadow Demon. As the war expanded, other species began to join the human-led coalition. Races that had suffered under Drax rule for generations saw a chance for freedom. In the Drax Central Hive system, the High Matriarch faced growing unrest among its own kind. "These humans do not fight like rational beings," it told the War Council. "They sacrifice themselves willingly. They attack targets of no strategic value. They destroy resources they could use." And Elder Council members' antennae twitched nervously. Perhaps we made a mistake challenging them. "It is too late for such thoughts," the High Matriarch replied. "We either destroy them completely, or they will never stop until they destroy us." Across the stars, the war grew. 6 months into the conflict, intelligence officer Sophia Okafor stood in a dark underground chamber on the Tauri homeworld. Her flashlight beam played across strange symbols carved into stone walls. Behind her, A team of human archaeologists carefully documented everything. "How old did you say this place was?" she asked the Tory guide. "Over 30,000 cycles," the blue-skinned alien replied. From before our Great Enlightenment, Sophia had been following a trail of odd references in captured Drax communications. They kept mentioning the buried threat when discussing Tory worlds. Now she understood why. The chamber was a weapons vault. Not just any weapons, planet killers. "Your people built these?" Sophia asked, her voice tight. The Tory looked away. It was a different time. 2 days later, Sophia presented her findings to Admiral Kowalski and Colonel Williams. The holographic images floating between them showed ancient but terrifyingly advanced weapons. "The Tory weren't always peaceful," Sophia explained. "According to what we found, they once ruled a third of the galaxy. With these weapons, they subjugated dozens of species." Marcus's face darkened, and Ambassador Seleth never mentioned this. "I think it's time we had a talk with our allies," Kowalski said. When confronted, Ambassador Seleth's 4 eyes blinked rapidly in distress. There was no point denying the truth anymore. "Yes," the alien admitted. "Long ago, the Tory Empire was feared throughout the galaxy. We used these weapons to force other species to submit." "And the Drax?" Marcus demanded. "Were one of our slave races," Seleth said quietly. "When our empire fell and we embraced peace, most species forgave us. The Drax never did. Their attack on us wasn't random. It was revenge, millennia in the making." The revelation spread through human command like wildfire. They had been fighting a war without understanding its true cause. Some argued they should withdraw. This wasn't humanity's ancient grudge to settle. Admiral Kowalski called an emergency council with Earth's leaders and military commanders. After hours of debate, General Elena Reyes spoke the words that would define humanity's path forward. "It doesn't matter who started this war 1,000 years ago," she said firmly. "The Drax came to our doorstep. They killed millions of our people. We finish what they started." The human war machine shifted focus. If the Drax would not accept peace, humanity would bring an end to the conflict the only way they knew how: total victory. Dr. Aisha Rahman made another breakthrough in her research facility on Meridian. Working with recovered Drax specimens, she discovered something remarkable. Their hive minds are connected through pheromones and synchronized brainwave patterns, she explained to Sophia during a secure transmission. But there's a frequency that disrupts this connection. It essentially gives them sensory overload. "Can we weaponize it?" Sophia asked immediately. Rahman's expression was troubled. "Yes, but it would be devastating. Without their hive connection, they'd experience something like mass psychosis. Entire colonies would tear themselves apart." "Send me everything," Sophia replied grimly. 3 weeks later, a small human fleet approached the Drax homeworld, Nexus Prime. Unlike previous assaults, they came with just 6 ships. But these vessels carried a weapon unlike any before. The Drax defenses were massive. Hundreds of warships formed a protective shell around their sacred world. They anticipated a large human fleet and had prepared accordingly. Instead, the 6 human vessels deployed thousands of small drones, each broadcasting on the precise frequency Rahman had identified. As the drones dispersed through the Drax fleet, the effects were immediate and catastrophic. Ship after ship fell silent as crews turned on each other. Weapons systems fired wildly or not at all. The carefully coordinated Drax defense collapsed into chaos. On the command ship Retribution, Admiral Kowalski watched the sensor readings with a stony expression. "Target their central hive complex," she ordered. "Prepare negotiation terms for broadcast." On Nexus Prime, the High Matriarch felt its connection to the hive mind fracturing. For the first time in its long life, it experienced true isolation and terror. A human transmission cut through the chaos. "This ends now. Surrender, and you live. Continue, and we deploy this weapon on every Drax world." The High Matriarch looked at its trembling counselors. each struggling with the same mental disintegration, and made the only choice it could. The surrender ceremony took place on neutral ground, a barren moon orbiting a gas giant at the border of Tauri and Drax space. Ambassador Seleth and the High Matriarch signed the treaty while Admiral Kowalski and General Reyes witnessed for humanity. The terms were harsh but not genocidal. The Drax would withdraw from all conquered territories. A demilitarized zone would separate them from both human and Tauri space. Reparations would be paid to all affected species. As the ceremony concluded, the High Matriarch addressed Kowalski directly. "Why did you not destroy us?" it asked, mandibles clicking softly. "You had the means." "Because that's not who we choose to be," Kowalski replied. "Humans can wage total war, but we prefer total peace. Remember that, if you ever consider breaking this treaty." 1 year after the war's end, a new Galactic Council convened on Earth. Representatives from 27 species gathered to establish mutual defense and trade agreements. General Elena Reyes, now serving as Earth's ambassador, stood at the podium addressing the assembled delegates. "The war with the Drax taught us all an important lesson," she said. "No species exists in isolation. The grudges of the past can poison the future if we let them. But together, we can build something better than any of us could alone." In the audience, Marcus Williams, now Admiral Williams, sat beside Ambassador Seleth. The Tauri turned its 4 eyes toward the human. "When we came to Earth begging for help, we never imagined this outcome," Seleth said. "You've changed the galaxy forever." "That's what humans do," Marcus replied with a slight smile. "We adapt, we evolve, and we never stop pushing forward." Across the stars, species that had never known peace now experienced it for the first time. Trade routes flourished where warships once patrolled. Former enemies worked together, rebuilding shattered worlds. And throughout the galaxy, a new understanding spread. Humans were indeed warriors unlike any other species had encountered. But their greatest strength wasn't their capacity for war. It was their vision for what came after. In the deepest reaches of space, aboard research vessels and diplomatic missions, humans ventured farther than they had ever gone before. They carried with them the lessons of the Drax War, that humanity's place in the cosmos would be defined not just by their willingness to fight when necessary, but by their determination to create lasting peace. And when the next crisis came, as it inevitably would, the galaxy would remember that when the Tauri begged for help, humanity answered not just with the fury of total war, but with the promise of a better tomorrow. On the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station, built at the former border between Tauri and Drax space, Dr. Aisha Rahman stood beside Sophia Okafor, watching ships from a dozen worlds pass through the busy trading hub. "Do you ever think about how differently this could have ended?" Rahman asked. Sophia nodded slowly. "Every day. We came so close to becoming what we were fighting against." "That's the real victory, isn't it?" Rahman said. "Not that we won the war, but that we remembered who we are." Below them, human children played alongside young Tauri and, remarkably, a small group of Drax offspring, part of a cultural exchange program. Their laughter echoed through the station, a sound that would have been unimaginable 2 years earlier. "That," Sophia said, pointing to the children, "is what we really fought for." In the vastness of space, humanity continued to spread, carrying with them a reputation that made other species approach with both respect and caution. For they had learned what the Drax discovered too late, that humans could indeed bring overwhelming force when threatened, but they much preferred to offer a helping hand. And across the stars, the story was told of how the Tauri came to Earth begging for mercy, and humanity answered with the full force of war, but also with the promise of enduring peace once the fighting was done. That was humanity's greatest weapon, and their greatest gift to the galaxy.